Gray and I can be considered childhood sweethearts. Our parents are friends, and our family backgrounds and education levels are quite similar. Naturally, shortly after graduating from university, the wedding was arranged. On the day of the wedding, after we had read our vows, Gray suddenly said to me, "I'm sorry, I don't love you." He held the microphone in his hand, and everyone heard this sentence. The wedding naturally could not continue. The instigator left, leaving me with a lifetime of shame. The two families fell out, and my parents and I moved abroad to settle down. If it weren't for the news of Gray's father's death being known to my parents, I wouldn't have returned to my country. After all, he is a friend of more than half a lifetime, and my parents asked me to return to the country to pay my respects. I just didn't expect that Gray would come to pick me up at the airport. It had been 5 years since we last met, and Gray was as handsome as ever, his demeanor more mature than before. Once, whenever I saw him, I would blush and my heart would race. Now, my heart no longer stirs. Long time no see, Mr. Gray. I held my daughter Doyen in my arms while coaxing her to call out to someone. "Doyen, be good, call Uncle Gray." The daughter had just woken up, her eyes still half closed, and she called out in a soft, babyish voice, "Hello, Uncle Gray." Then she leaned against my shoulder and fell back asleep. Gray suddenly reddened his eyes, stepping over a few paces in a somewhat disheveled manner, almost colliding with me. "Is this our daughter?" he asked tremulously, reaching out, unsure whether he wanted to embrace me or Doyen. I quickly stepped back, putting some distance between us. Mr. Gray laughed and said, "How could we possibly have children? Alyssa, this is the child from back then, right?" Gray seems to not understand a word, rambling on about nonsensical things. I handed the child over to the nanny Alfie behind me. Having her around would help me a lot. In addition to Alfie, I also brought my assistant Emily to handle the affairs of the studio. "Mr. Gray, I have come to pay my respects to Uncle Goo on behalf of my parents. We are not married, so how could we have children?" "I am already married, please do not say such strange things." Although 5 years have passed, Gray's decision to run away from the wedding has left a significant impact on me, and I truly have no kind words for him. Gray couldn't stand it and asked in confusion, "What do you mean, Mr. Gray? You used to call me brother." I was too young back then, and now I know I was wrong. "Alyssa, you have worked hard raising our child alone for these 5 years, and from now on, I will not let you down." Sitting in the car, Gray rambled on to himself. I really thought he was out of his mind. I got out of the car and squeezed into a vehicle with Alfie and Emily. After a moment's thought, I opened the car door again. "Gray, I am already married. You are also married, so please be more careful with your words in the future and don't provoke me." As I was about to close the car door, Gray suddenly grabbed my hand. "Alyssa, you really do care about Natalie and me. As long as you come back, I can divorce her." When a person reaches a certain level of silence, they really will laugh. I shut the door with a bang and left. When he first married me, he wanted to be with Natalie forever. Now he's marrying his beloved and still isn't satisfied. What a despicable person. My family's villa is very close to the Goo family's villa in the suburbs. Since my family's villa has been uninhabited for many years and has no one to take care of it, it cannot be lived in for the time being. So, we moved into the Goo family villa. Originally, we planned to stay at a hotel in the city, but since we had to go to the cemetery the next day, it was too much trouble to come and go. We might as well make do and stay for one night. Gray's mother saw me and pulled me aside to reminisce about the past. In the end, she sighed and said that it was Gray who had wronged me. "Alyssa, are you still willing to be devoted to the Goo family? When it comes to being the daughter-in-law of the Goo family?" I hurriedly interrupted, "I almost forgot to show you my daughter." "Daughter?" As they spoke, Alfie had already carried Doyen out of the room. Doyen called out to Grandma Goo sweetly, making Aunt Goo delighted as she picked her up and looked her over, saying, "Just like you. Just like when you were a child, you're so endearing to look at." Aunt Goo finished speaking, and Doyen tilted her head to look at her. "I also like Grandma Goo." Saying this, she gave Aunt Goo's cheek a kiss. This little girl is just like her father, the best at charming people. She made Aunt Goo smile from ear to ear. Gray had been standing by for who knows how long, suddenly interjecting, "She looks like Alyssa, beautiful. Her mind should be like mine, smart." He reached out and affectionately touched Doyen's hair tied in a bow. Doyen avoided him, furrowing her brows as she looked at him, her face full of displeasure. "Why should I be like you? My dad is the smartest and the strongest." I also don't like Gray and Doyen interacting, so I immediately signaled Alfie to take the child away. Aunt Goo noticed the atmosphere was off and tried to smooth things over by asking, "So Alyssa is married now? What a pity that both your Uncle Goo and I couldn't attend. Where is the groom from? Why didn't you bring him back to meet us this time?" In these 5 years, the two families have had little contact, and I naturally didn't inform them of my marriage. Moreover, when I got married, I only invited both sets of parents to attend. "Mom, Gray is dissatisfied. How could Alyssa possibly get married? Doyen is my child." He turned to me again. "Alyssa, I was wrong to you back then, but the child is innocent and cannot be without a father. I don't know where Gray's obsession comes from, nor do I care to know." I stood up and smiled at Aunt Goo. "I'm a bit tired today, so I'm going to rest first. I've explained so many times that I'm married, and the child isn't Gray's, but that bitch still doesn't believe it." Gray wanted to catch up, but was stopped by Aunt Goo. Behind them, the sound of their argument could be heard. "Enough, isn't the trouble caused to Alyssa back then enough? She's already married, do you dare to meddle again?" Returning home, I turned off the airplane mode on my phone. Hundreds of messages and calls popped up instantly. "Honey, wait for me to take Doyen to visit our alma mater together." "Wife, why are you ignoring me?" "Wife, are you tired of me?" I immediately called back, and on the other end, a man's aggrieved complaint rang out. "You only think of me now, there's no love left." I chuckled. No, I chatted with the elders of the Goo family for a bit and lost track of time. Mike felt as if he were facing a formidable enemy. He hadn't talked much with that guy. That guy was Gray. I rolled my eyes from a distance, really wanting to vent to Mike about Gray's neurotic behavior. What's there to talk to him about? By the way, when can you come back to the country? Mike thought for a moment. "After the shareholders' meeting tomorrow, I will fly over immediately." "All right, my daughter and I will wait for your return. This room is a suite. Doyen and I sleep in one room, while Alfie sleeps in the outer room. The assistant is in the guest room downstairs. Alfie is telling Doyen a bedtime story." I urged her to keep a close eye on Doyen these days, and not to let anyone else get close. Especially Gray, don't let him near Doyen. If I had known that Gray was acting like a mad dog now, I wouldn't have brought Doyen back to the country. 5 years ago, when Gray ran away from his wedding, he repeatedly claimed that his heart belonged to someone else. The hem of the wedding dress was large and heavy, and I clumsily chased after Gray's determined figure. Finally, I caught his sleeve. At that moment, so many eyes were fixed on me, their mocking and sympathetic gazes almost solidifying into knives, torturing me bit by bit. Tears ruined my delicate makeup, and with tearful eyes, I begged him to stay. At the very least, don't let me lose face in front of so many people with my parents. Gray just disdainfully shook me off. He said, "Don't be like this, clinging to me will only make me hate you more. I want to pursue my own happiness." So I let go of Gray and allowed him to leave. The words still linger in my ears. I never imagined that after returning to my country, Gray would cling to me like a madman. It's simply unfortunate. At that moment, the phone suddenly rang again. An unfamiliar number. When I answered, it was Gray. "Mom gave me your number, can we chat?" "There's nothing much to talk about." The number I gave to Gray's mother is a temporary number I used when I returned to my country, so it doesn't matter even if Gray knows. The call had just ended when a text message came in. "For the 5 years you disappeared, I have been thinking of you. After reading the diary you wrote, I finally realized that the biggest mistake I made was missing you. After thinking it over, I decided to block this number, it's just too annoying. The next morning, we set off for the cemetery. Doyen is still young after all, so I had my assistant and Alfie stay at the villa to take care of her. Among the crowd at the cemetery were old acquaintances of my parents, and I spent some time greeting them. Upon learning that I am married abroad and have a baby, everyone became curious about who the husband is. In the midst of the conversation, a woman's voice intruded inappropriately. "How did I hear Gray say that the child is his?" Natalie took off her sunglasses and smiled at me. "Long time no see. Are you back this time to use the child to win Gray's heart? Actually, you don't need to go through all that trouble. If you want him, I'll just give him to you." Here it comes again, that sense of shame from being watched by everyone. If it were before, I would have been infuriated to the point of turning red by Natalie's words. Now, I can only smile. "You're too polite, I'm not like you, who specializes in garbage collection." Natalie's expression stiffened for a moment, but she quickly regained her composure. "I heard you're living with the Gu family. Is this to bring the child back to their roots? Some people take advantage of others' kindness. If I keep denying something at this moment, it will only make me seem suspicious." So I directly ignored Natalie and politely said to the others, "My partner will probably return to the country tonight, and we can get together tomorrow." At this moment, the ceremony began, and everyone dispersed. Natalie relentlessly followed me, chattering on, "Are you really married? Does your partner know about your past? Does he know how you relentlessly pursued other men?" Gray and I attended neighboring universities. During our college years, our parents arranged our marriage. Natalie is a classmate of Gray in the same major. The first time I heard the name Natalie was when Gray compared me to her. That day he forgot my birthday, and I pretended to be angry, calling him out to have a meal with me. Gray suddenly got angry and said that I always trouble him over trivial matters. Today I promised Natalie to work on our social practice assignment together, and you called me out just to have a meal? Can't you be a little more mature? In Gray's eyes, Natalie is a very spirited girl. She is smart, ambitious, and diligent in her studies. I felt quite wronged and punched him. "Who exactly is your girlfriend?" Gray then praised me, explaining that this assignment was quite important, which is why he got angry with me. Since childhood, I have always chased after Gray. In my heart, he is a brother, a friend, and also a lover. So he can coax me, and I'm already quite happy, without probing into his matters with Natalie. It wasn't until the end of my sophomore year that I started to notice Natalie. Gray said he would be busy studying and would get in touch after the break. I really missed him, so I secretly went to his school to see him. He wasn't in the dormitory, nor had he gone to the library. Later, I saw him on the playground, walking with a strange girl. I don't know how, but the name Natalie suddenly popped into my mind. The evening glow reddened my eyes. I caught up and asked, "Is this what you call reviewing?" Gray is a bit flustered. He instinctively shields Natalie behind him. "What are you daydreaming about again?" Gray frowned. "Is it wrong for me to discuss knowledge points with my classmates?" "Alyssa, you really suffocate me." The word suffocation is used by Gray to describe his parents. Gray's family elders are known for their strict discipline. From childhood to adulthood, whether it was daily routines or social interactions, Gray's parents arranged everything for him. Perhaps it was precisely because of the strictness at home that Gray became increasingly distant and indifferent towards others. He had few friends around him, and whenever he felt wronged, he could only confide in me. It was said to be a confession, but it was actually just a rare glimpse of his wounded and vulnerable side. Yet, this made me believe that I held a certain weight in his heart. He once said that he felt the most relaxed and happy when he was by my side. I appeared to have no reaction, but in reality, my heart was already bursting with joy. This mutual unspoken crush, I thought he liked me too. In the end, Gray said I made him feel suffocated. In an instant, I panicked. Clearly, it was Gray who was in the wrong, yet I was the one who panicked. I fear that I truly suffocate him. After all, I am so looking forward to our future together. But I also have my own dignity. If Gray dares to hurt me with words to protect other girls, then there is no need for this relationship to continue. So I suggested breaking up at that time. The funny thing is, that night Gray came to me with roses, to make peace. He earnestly explained that he and that student Chen were only discussing matters related to their field of study. Since then, Natalie seemed to have vanished from Gray's world. I never heard him mention her even once. Until the wedding ceremony 5 years ago. Gray said, "I want to pursue my own happiness, and Natalie is my happiness." I only just realized that while Gray was in a relationship with me, he was also warming Natalie. To some extent, Gray was very good at disguise. He had been pretending for so many years, and then, at the moment of my greatest happiness, he destroyed all the beauty. I asked him why he chose to do it on the day of the wedding. Gray said, "Natalie has no sense of security, only when we are completely impossible to be together can she feel at ease. Because of such a ridiculous reason, I have to endure so much gossip and slander." The memories came to an end. The incessant noise of Natalie finally quieted under Gray's slap. "What are you making a fuss about? You really suffocate me." Natalie instinctively wanted to retaliate, but was caught by Gray, who said, "Apologize to Alyssa." Someone heard the noise and looked over. I hurried to distance myself from those despicable people. The two engaged in a battle of words, both looking quite dissatisfied with each other. It seems that Gray is getting older, and his tendency to choke is still there. Thinking of this, I almost laughed out loud during the moment of silence. When the elders are buried, it doesn't look good for the younger generation to be arguing and bickering on the side. Aunt Gu wore a sullen expression and told the two to shut their mouths. I am a bit curious about how Gray and Natalie ended up like this. However, curiosity aside, I have no intention of prying. The funeral concluded, and everyone gradually left the cemetery. "Alyssa, can you stay with Auntie for a few more days at home?" Watching her husband's ashes being buried in the ground, Auntie Gu, this strong woman, couldn't help but choke on her words. I slowly comforted her. It also reminded me of the time when she regarded me as her own daughter, softening my heart a little more. "How about I take my aunt abroad to relax? My parents bought a small farm in the beautiful country, and the scenery is quite nice." Aunt Gu furrowed her brows tightly, and upon hearing this, she became even more sorrowful. "If only Gray had married you back then. Now they are fighting over divorce and dividing their assets, and the family's businesses still rely on me. Who would have thought that after enjoying a prosperous life for most of my years, I can't find a moment of peace in my old age?" I suppressed the sigh in my heart and quietly listened to Aunt Gu express her thoughts. What I think is that if Aunt Gu had not forcefully intervened between Gray and Natalie back then, and had not kept me in the dark, perhaps everything would have turned out differently. After Gray ran away from the wedding, when my parents wanted an explanation, Aunt Gu finally confessed that when I was having a breakup with Gray, she went directly to find Natalie. She offered Natalie $500,000 to stay away from Gray. Natalie was initially unwilling, saying that everyone has the right to choose love. But Aunt Gu stopped Gray's card, saying that if he married anyone other than me, the family would leave him not a penny of inheritance. It was quite a coincidence that at that time, Aunt Gu was pregnant at an advanced age. I don't know what Gray was really thinking, but from my perspective, he apologized and sought reconciliation with me the next day. I don't understand the twists and turns of it all. I just foolishly thought that Gray really cared about me. In my view, he and I share a childhood friendship. But in Gray's eyes, I am merely a burden forced upon him by my family. He dared not hate his parents, yet buried within him was a resentment towards me. The subsequent developments are easy to understand. Gray and Natalie seem to have gone their separate ways, but in private, they are deeply in love and unable to part. With the support of my family and our substantial capital, Gray quickly achieved success in his entrepreneurial endeavors. He became a new tycoon in the business world, and when the Gu family could no longer control him, they could hardly contain their fangs. The first act of revenge is the wedding I have long awaited. He ruined it completely. The second act of revenge was an attack on the Chen family's assets. Gray took away most of our old customers with the company's new technology and costs lower than the Chin family's. The Chin family's company was in a state of decline. However, Gray did not expect that my father had long considered developing abroad, placing most of the industrial chain overseas. Nowadays, overseas companies are thriving, yet Gray still believes our family business is on the brink of bankruptcy. Years ago, Gray's parents felt deeply sorry about this and gave our family $10 million in compensation. My father refused it and directly took our family abroad to settle down. In the third act of revenge, Gray grandly married Natalie, striking a heavy blow to the faces of the Gu family elders. To show his affection for Natalie, Gray transferred most of the company's shares to her name. If this were a novel featuring Gray and Natalie as the main characters, it should be a perfect happy ending by now. However, there is no such thing as a perfect ending in life. Moreover, someone like Gray, with a heart as cold as a wolf's and as ungrateful as a dog, does not deserve happiness. Now Natalie and Gray are fighting over a divorce. Logically, most of the assets should belong to Natalie. This indeed has left Aunt Gu in a state of unrest for a moment. Other people's affairs have nothing to do with me. I just consider myself a listener. After Aunt Gu finished her confession, I quietly said, if needed, I can recommend a lawyer who is very experienced in handling divorce cases. After talking all the way, the car had driven into the Gu family villa. Natalie sat on the sofa. I caught a glimpse of Aunt Gu, who was teary-eyed as she came in, and I said something in a neutral tone. Mom, now the daughter-in-law you admire has returned, and I am willing to step aside. My request is not high, just give me that lakeside villa. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ungrateful. The Xingchuan Group is very interested in acquiring our company. Aunt Gu ignored her, and I pretended she didn't exist, heading straight upstairs to find Doyen. Doyen is not upstairs, the room is filled with large and small bags of toys and clothes. Opening the window, I saw Alfie pushing Doyen on the swing in the backyard, with the assistant standing by. Gray was squatting in front of Doyen, holding a rabbit plush toy that was half his height, saying something. But Doyen turned his head away and ignored him. Probably still angry at Gray for saying he was smart like him. In a child's heart, only parents are the best. Everything else must stand aside. I went downstairs and, as I walked over, I heard Gray coaxing Doyen. This is the rabbit plush toy that your mother loved the most back in the day. Do you want it? I remember. Every time it's my birthday, Gray would give me a rabbit plush toy or rabbit-shaped jewelry. It's not because I like it, but because he doesn't have to bother choosing. Anyway, as long as it has a rabbit shape, that's enough. It's just like how he treats me. There's no need to go out of your way to please me. After all, my feelings for him are so intense and passionate. Gray never worried that I would stop loving him. No. Doyen said with a stern face, refusing. Dad made a lot of things for Mom by hand, and this rabbit is just too ugly. After saying that, Doyen looked up and saw me, jumping down from the swing with excitement. Mom, you're finally back. She ran over and reached out her hands to hug. I bent down and held her in my arms. Mom, can we go now? I miss Dad. It's really tough for her. There are no little animals from the farm to keep her company, and it's not as fun as the playground at home. Pack your things and leave now, your father will be here soon. Upon hearing this, Doyen clapped her hands twice and called for Alfie to quickly come and help her tidy up. How long do you plan to keep it from her? Gray stopped me. She's 5 years old, if you do the math, it must be about that night. Fortunately, I was quick-witted and covered Doyen's ears. The little girl looked at me in confusion, and I smiled at her, letting Alfie take her to pack her things first. Seeing the large and small figures disappear, I couldn't help but laugh as I looked at Gray. That night? You mean you asked me to spare the Chin family, yet you made me drink to apologize to Natalie? Gray's face suddenly turned pale. No. After Gray ran away from the wedding, the revenge against the Chin family followed. The abrupt breakup was truly a heavy blow to me. Adding to that, having unintentionally overheard his parents mention that the family business was facing retaliation, and not having clarified the situation, he went to find Gray, asking him not to make things so final. Gray held Natalie close, sitting at the head of the table, looking at me with a playful expression. The man who had peeled away his gentle facade revealed sharp fangs. If it weren't for you, Natalie wouldn't have suffered so much. If you want me to let the Chen family go, it all depends on when Natalie forgives you. I never drink, but that night, I don't even know how much I consumed. In the end, I held Gray and begged him, for the sake of our past feelings, to keep the Chen family. When I woke up the next day, Gray and I were sleeping together. At that time, Natalie was still crying, to the point that Gray felt I was deliberately seducing her, viewing the Chen family as a thorn in his side. The events of that year are vivid in my memory. Gray's face turned pale again and again. He wanted to explain, but I just laughed out loud. Stop joking, Gray. Nothing will happen between two drunkards, and besides, you were thrown onto my bed by Natalie. Seeing the man's face full of disbelief, I added another sentence. If I were to become pregnant with your child, I might as well be dead, only a fool would give birth. Hearing this, Gray's body couldn't help but sway. Just as I lifted my leg to leave, he grabbed my wrist tightly. Don't go, I don't mind the child. Assistant Emily was faster than him, knocking him out with a single punch. Gray took 2 steps back and sat down on the ground with a thud. Mike is right, when going out, you need to bring a few bodyguards. Gray stood up and tried to approach me, but Emily stepped in front of me. Mr. Gray, please have some self-respect. Alyssa, if you dare to leave, I will send those drunken photos from back then to your husband. You can forget about leaving me again. A photo of me lying together with Gray after a hangover. At that time, he still thought I had someone take it, and angrily scolded me for being shameless. Now, they want to use this photo to stir up trouble between Mike and me. See me stop in my tracks. Gray felt that he had won. One day I will find out who your current partner is. No man can tolerate his wife being intimate with someone else. Suddenly, someone grabbed my hand from behind. My back pressed against a warm, heated chest. Immediately, Mike's voice rang in my ears. Gray, you have quite a good understanding of yourself. What do you mean? Gray frowned. Who are you? Don't worry about who I am, just take a look at these photos. Mike waved his hand, and a photo was lifted by the wind, hitting Gray squarely in the face. Hesitantly reaching out to grab one, Gray's neck instantly bulged with veins. Natalie, that bitch. After saying that, she didn't care about me and rushed into the villa. Just as Natalie's scream echoed from upstairs, I was saying goodbye to Aunt Gu. Aunt Gu looked at Mike, then glanced at me. He's a nice young man, named Mike, right? He should treat our Alyssa well. She had red eyes, and by the end, all that was left was a sigh. I gave her a hug and invited her to come visit the farm when she has time. It was at the moment I closed the car window that Natalie's scream pierced the air. My aunt, unable to say goodbye, hurried towards the source of the sound, her heart racing with fear. Through the iron railing of the courtyard, I could clearly see Gray and Natalie confronting each other in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows on the 3rd floor. So interesting. Once in love, one shifts marital assets, while the other cheats with 3 partners. It really is true, if you're not family, you don't enter the same door. Let's go, my wife. I got into the car, putting everything behind me. Visiting my high school alma mater was already part of my plan to return to the country. Mike held Doyen, pointing at his photo on the honor window. Very stinky fart, Dad is an excellent graduate, isn't he impressive? The little girl stared for a long time. This is not Daddy. Why? I asked, amused. Ugly. Mike was so angry that he fell back, pretending to want to hit Doyen, but in the end, he could only gently pinch the soft flesh of her cheek. Don't be disdainful of Dad. Doyen wrinkled her nose. It's just ugly. Children have a vague concept of beauty and ugliness. However, Mike in the past was indeed far from being handsome. During his adolescence, his face was covered in acne, and his family took him to see a doctor, but there was no improvement. With the hormonal turmoil of puberty, his already tall frame became overweight, and he didn't look very appealing. Because of this, some people called him a toad behind his back. During high school, no one knew about his family background, they only knew that he had good grades. The teacher appreciates him, but some students are very resistant to him. Especially a few mischievous male classmates not only gave him unflattering nicknames, but also often teased him. Once, during gym class, a male student tied Mike's shoelaces together, causing him to fall hard. He was so fat that he couldn't untie his shoelaces. I couldn't stand it, so I helped Mike untie his shoelaces and took him to the infirmary to treat his wounds. I actually don't have much impression of this, but Mike said that from that time on, he started to pay attention to me. However, in high school, I was still Gray's little shadow. Mike has tried hard to talk to me a few times and we've crossed paths a few times, but I have no recollection of it at all. During our 4 years in college, although we were in the same city, we were not at the same university. In the 4 years, Mike has changed a lot. Finally, he feels he can confidently stand in front of me. Upon learning that I liked photography, I joined the photography club at my school through connections. We took photos together and had meals together. We gradually became ordinary friends. Of course, at that time we could only be friends. When it comes to love, my first choice will always be Gray. Upon learning that I was about to marry Gray, Mike finally let go of his obsession and followed his family's arrangement to study abroad. It was such a coincidence that I was betrayed and met Mike in a foreign land. Don't be fooled by the fact that Gray and I have been talking for many years. When it comes to the feeling of being in love, it was actually Mike who brought that to me. Mike's pursuit is very straightforward. I have never refused, after all, in a foreign land, he is someone I trust very much, besides my family. It was only when I agreed to become his girlfriend that I hesitated. After all, the more than 10 springs and autumns I spent with Gray are not fake. We may not have broken through the final barrier, but we have kissed and embraced. I asked Mike if he minded. I don't want to experience the tragedy of a cliff-like breakup a second time. Mike said it like this at the time. I prepared for many years before daring to stand in front of you, and it was only after making up my mind that I confessed to you. The sense of security you lack, I will provide for you. On the day we confirmed our relationship, he took me to meet his parents and elders. It was then that I realized our families had already had business dealings long before. From establishing a romantic relationship to getting engaged, everything happened very quickly. There's nothing else, being with Mike, I truly feel that intangible happiness. Surprises that come without needing a reminder. I will provide corresponding suggestions when making decisions, rather than just saying it's up to you. We will accommodate each other, rather than me always yielding. They will encourage me to explore new things, rather than watching coldly from the sidelines. With Mike's comparison, I finally understood the difference between love and indifference. Looking back at that time, Mike was holding Doyen, introducing every blade of grass and tree on campus, one by one. The teacher from the school's finance department was also on the side, confirming the details of the donation with Emily. Mike decided to donate a building to his alma mater as a commemoration of our 4th anniversary. In addition, he also plans to sponsor some underprivileged students. I just didn't expect to see Gray here. There were quite a few students coming and going, and we all maintained the dignity of adults. He walked over and asked, "Those photos, are they your revenge on me? Are you happy now?" Natalie had an affair while married, juggling 3 relationships. Those photos are undeniable evidence. The consequences seem a bit too light for her actions. I finished speaking, and Mike also came over. "Mr. Gray, don't get me wrong, I'm giving you the photo because I hope to strike a deal with you." "What business?" "I'm very interested in your company." Mike smiled and said, "You can sell it to me." Gray squinted. "Natalie holds the highest stake. If you talk to her, wouldn't that be the most advantageous?" Mike smiled. "One of your wife's lovers is a director in my group." I hope to team up with Mr. Gray to deal with some nuisances. What do you think? While the two men were talking, I was only focused on helping Doyen gather dandelions around us. She found a flower, puffed up her cheeks, and blew it away in one breath. The white little umbrella fluttered everywhere, and when I looked up, I locked eyes with Gray. He just stared at me. You still hate me for taking away the Chin family's business? I couldn't be bothered to answer and was pulled by Doyen to play further away. Mike stood in the way, and Gray could never get any closer to me. Today is destined to be lively. In the school's underground parking lot, Natalie is waiting there. Of course, all her anger is directed at Gray. You dare to freeze my assets. Natalie's leather bag slammed down, and Gray's nose turned red and swollen. Wait for me, my dear. The chairman of Xingchuan Group is my lover, and I will make sure he kills you. Hearing this, Mike quickly made a surrender gesture to me. Honey, I don't know her. Who are you? Natalie lifted her chin slightly, then scoffed. Oh, so you're the one taking over. So it is said that women are at a disadvantage in romantic relationships. In normal interactions, after one relationship ends and a new one begins, the other party will be labeled as a cuckold. My approach is, Emily, it's your turn. Emily went up and gave Natalie 2 slaps. Gray stood by and did not intervene. She wasn't afraid of Natalie telling the police. After all, there were no cameras here. Moreover, Gray wouldn't testify for her. The 4 of us left, leaving the Gray couple to argue in place. Before returning to my country, I held a banquet and invited old friends and acquaintances of my parents to attend. On one hand, it was announced that our Xingchuan Group would consider investing domestically, while on the other hand, Mike actually hoped to publicly acknowledge the fact that we are married. People never hold a grudge against money. No matter what unpleasantness occurred before, the most important thing is whether they can cooperate for mutual benefit moving forward. In the gathering of female guests, it was inevitable for everyone to talk about marriage. With Mike as a comparison, they all felt that my separation from Gray back then was the absolutely right decision. Oh, Gray's wife never interacts with me. She seeks freedom and doesn't want to deal with us, a group shackled by wealth. Everyone chimed in, and it became clear that after their marriage, Natalie neither took care of household matters nor concerned herself with the company affairs. She also showed little interest in social interactions. There were even a few banquets that ended in unpleasantness with the ladies. In her eyes, these people either looked down on her or approached her with ulterior motives. At first, Gray protected Natalie, thinking she hadn't socialized much. But later, he grew tired of her and decided not to bring her to the banquets at all. With this, Natalie felt once again that there was someone outside Gray. The misunderstanding between the couple deepened, and they simply began to play along with it. I listened half-heartedly, as if it were the affairs of a stranger. I looked up at Mike, who was chatting and laughing with others not far away, and suddenly smiled. Indeed, I have let it all go. Gray was also invited to come. The Gu family now is not as prosperous as it was 5 years ago. His arrival did not cause any ripples. I merely smiled politely at him and greeted the others. When I went out to the balcony for some fresh air, Gray followed closely behind. This is your diary. The cover is made of cowhide, with a certain brand's logo prominently displayed. The pages are yellowed, showing signs of age. This is specially customized for recording the little moments of my romance with Gray. Turning it over, each word and line is filled with love. This diary, you should give it to me as a wedding gift. Gray saw me flipping through the pages, his words filled with excitement. By the time I opened it, you had already gone abroad, and I realized that you loved me far more than I had imagined. I have thought more than once that it would have been better if I had married you back then. I quickly finished flipping through the pages and closed the notebook. And then? Gray was stunned. Alyssa, I don't believe you have no feelings for me at all. Now we have a chance to start over. I threw the notebook into the fireplace, my tone indifferent. Whether you believe it or not is none of my concern. But if you keep pestering me, I wouldn't mind having Emily serve you a few punches. No. Gray instinctively reached out to grab the diary. But a flicker of flame rolled, and the diary vanished completely into the fireplace. The only proof that I ever loved him has also vanished. Shortly after returning to the country, Mike successfully acquired Gray's company. On the day she signed the contract, Natalie realized that her lover was merely a minor director at Xingchuan Group. Both of them, one embezzling assets from the Xingchuan Group and the other attempting to short-sell his own company, were sent to prison. After Natalie was imprisoned, she asked someone to arrange a meeting with me. Through the iron bars, she said with a cold smile, "Alyssa, what are you so proud of? My present is your future." I shrugged indifferently. "Oh, so what? Mike loves you now, but if he stops, he'll still kick you out." "I deeply agree. But so what? Before we got married, Mike willingly gave most of his fortune to me. After Doyen came along, Mike registered all his assets in the child's name. When you love me, you are fully prepared. Even if one day Mike really does part ways with me, I won't lose anything." After Natalie finished speaking, I stood up and straightened the wrinkles in my clothes. "Natalie, do you think your affair was accidental?" The woman stared wide-eyed in shock. "What did you say?" "It was me who led you to meet and get to know these men. That little director, I know he is ambitious, and I also know your marriage is unhappy. When you two got together, you truly brought down the Gu family, giving me a surprise." Natalie slapped the glass with her palm, glaring at me with wide eyes, as if she wanted to eat me alive. Soon, the police held her down. As for me, I picked up my bag and walked away with a light step. As for Gray, he transferred marital assets and manipulated the company accounts, not only facing fines but also spending some time in prison. By the time he came out, the Gu family was nearly bankrupt. He is now just a worker under my command. He came to my parents' farm to find Aunt Gu, who was on vacation, and greeted me. I told him to shut up, "Please call me Chairman." Aunt Gu refused to meet Gray. The reason is that before Natalie was caught, she vented her anger by confessing an old matter to Aunt Gu. In those years, Aunt Gu, at an advanced age, became pregnant and used her family wealth to force Gray to cut off contact with Natalie. Gray agreed at the time, secretly plotting, which led to Aunt Gu's miscarriage. It is already difficult for older mothers, and at that time, Aunt Gu fell down the stairs, nearly losing her life. Upon learning that the instigator was Gray, Aunt Gu was filled with despair. Considering the remaining bond between mother and son, she left him only 1/10 of her fortune. Aunt Gu said that she wanted to take advantage of her nimble legs to go out and see the world. From now on, no one will be watching over Gray. He must be quite pleased about that. Not long after, Gray left my company. The next time I heard about him was years later when the news broke about a certain loan shark's violent debt collection. In the illustration, the tattered-clothed Gray clutches his severed arm in immense pain. I turned off the news. Aunt Gu has passed away. There is no need to be sad about this son anymore.